Hello everyone, welcome back to this channel. We are studying Standard 10th Science. In that, chapter number 14, Sources of Energy. In the previous video, we talked about the energy, what is and why we need energy, what are the characteristics of good source of energy. We also classified the sources of energy, and we saw in the end we saw about fossil fuels, right? Fossil fuels, how they are formed. They are classified as coal and petroleum. Again, we have a different story for that, how they are formed. And also, even though we are mainly dependent on fossil fuels, but it has so many disadvantages, right? So it causes air pollution, they are limited, they will get exhausted soon, they release some acidic oxides, it may cause greenhouse effect, global warming, and as well as air pollution, right? So they also leave byproducts after burning. So there are many disadvantages of using fossil fuels. So we have to move towards new sources of energy, alternate sources of energy. So in this video we will talk about thermal energy, that means thermal power plants, how they are working. Then we will move on to hydropower plants. We will discuss in deep about its advantage and disadvantage, and then we will end up with a new source of energy, that is biomass. Clear? So let us start with the first one, that is thermal energy. Now, thermal energy we get from heat, right? The word thermal is related to heat. So those functioning units which gives us the electricity on the basis of heat, they are known as thermal power plants, right? Now, what do we do in these thermal power plants? We use fossil fuels. Okay. What do we do for these fossil fuels? They are burnt to produce heat energy, right? And this heat energy is only converted to electrical energy. Clear? Now see, heat is converted into electrical energy. So this is the principle of thermal power plant. Clear? So large amount of fossil fuel are burned daily to produce heat, right? And this heat is then used to convert the water into steam, and that steam, through various arrangement, it runs the turbine, the rotor or turbine, and that turbine converts the kinetic energy into electricity. Clear? Now it's not possible to transport fuels to everywhere if the thermal power plants are set up very far away, right? If suppose in our town or district we have a special thermal power plant, but huge amount of coal is required to run that thermal power plant. So it is not possible to take or bring coal every time. So what do? We establish thermal power plant near the coal or oil field, so very quickly we may get the raw material, right? So at the end, thermal word is related to heat, so the name thermal power plant is made. Now let us see further a very simple explanation of how does a thermal power plant work. This figure is also given in our textbook. You see, below we have an arrow which shows heat. Now from where does this heat comes? This heat comes from the fuel that we are burning. Okay. Then we have a chamber, pressurized chamber, which is connected with a steam pipe. So what happens in this pressurized chamber? Liquid is there, water is there, and after getting heat it converts into steam, and through this pipe steam goes and their speed increases, and from that speed what we do, we rotate the turbine. So this turbine is rotated, and in presence of strong electromagnetic field this turbine is rotated and is connected with the generator. This dynamo is nothing but electric generator, right? So just because of the motion of this turbine, electricity is produced and then it is transported to the various household or commercial or government offices, buildings. Clear? So this is it, the flow chart. The fuel burns, produces heat, this heat converts water into steam, steam rotates the rotor, and then finally it goes to generator, and then this electricity is transported to us. Clear? Now it appears to be a very easy and reliable electricity generating thing, but in reality it has some disadvantages as well. You see, we are relying on non-renewable fuels. That is why they are limited. They will be exhausted. The efficiency for energy production is very less, right? Almost the efficiency of thermal power plant is near about 33%. So remaining 67% we are wasting. And also, if we burn huge amount of non-renewable fuels, it will create pollution. Clear? So this is all about thermal power plant. Moving further, let us see what is hydro energy. Right, the energy captured from moving water. That means we are using kinetic energy of water, and we will see the principle of hydropower plant working diagram and advantage and disadvantage. So for this chapter, this is an important question. Moving further, you see, from earlier times, this kinetic energy is not utilized. This is not the latest technique. From earlier times, the Persian wheels are utilized. You see these Persian wheels, we have a well over here, and this wheel is connected with buckets, right? If the wheel is moving, what does it do? It takes the water from the well, and when it rotates, the water is falling over here, and the collected water then goes to the field. So we have been using the water energy in irrigation purpose, right? On the right hand side, you see there is again a wheel which is a modified version. Right now we are using. It is just placed near a river where the water is flowing, and if by using the kinetic energy, this is rotating and produces the electrical energy, right? So flowing water possesses kinetic energy. It can be used to rotate flour mills. Earlier times it was used to transport heavy logs of wood also from forest in hilly areas to downstream area. So it is now also used to generate hydroelectricity, right? So we have been using it since earlier times. Clear? Because water has potential energy as well as water has kinetic energy. So that energy can be utilized. Moving ahead, let us see the hydro power plant. So what we do, we obstruct the flow of a river near very narrow region. We make a wall, a very thick wall in between. So every amount of water is obstructed and it is stored in the reservoir. Okay. Now, when the water is obstructed, the level becomes very high. Okay. So there is intake, water intake and reservoir. Now, the dam has a control gate. This control gate then goes, the water if goes over here, it flows through a very narrow region, penstock we say. Then why we are making it narrow? Because when the more narrow the path is, the more fast the water speed will be. The water goes over here and it rotates the turbine, and after rotating the turbine the water goes into the outflow region, right? So the only work which was from the water we had that to rotate the turbine. So turbine is connected with generator and it produces electricity, then from power lines and transformers it goes. Clear? So this is the working of a hydro power plant. Clear? Using the power of gravity, water from the dam is channeled through pipes and it rotates the turbine. The turbine rotates, connected with the generator, it creates electricity. Clear? And the water is not utilized, water is going again in the outflow. So we haven't utilized water for any other purpose rather than rotating the turbine. Clear? Now let us see further the advantage and disadvantage of hydro power plants. Right? The advantage are very nice as compared to other energy producing techniques. For example, it creates negligible pollution. The pollution only it is caused when there is any maintenance work or when there is building of the dam. Water that is available free of cost. Whenever it rains, water is available. We use renewable source of energy. Water and rainfall water cycle is since millions of years, billions of years, and will remain till next millions of years, right? So water is not going to get exhausted. Also, some places where water was uncontrollable, if we are building a dam, it is helping in controlling the floods. And also, water in the reservoir can be channeled through long distance to provide water for irrigation. For example, if I say Sardar Sarovar Dam. It has one of the longest canal system, almost 66,000 kilometers. The length of the canals are there, which means many other states poor farmers are getting water just because we have Sardar Sarovar Dam. Okay. Now let us talk about disadvantage. Now we have quite few disadvantage. For example, wherever we are making the dam, a large variety of plant, animal and their habitat gets submerged in the water. It also decreases the fertility of soil in the downstream area, right? So crops are affected. Dams can only be constructed wherever the flow is narrow. Okay, vegetation which gets submerged, they rot under the anaerobic condition and it gives rise to methane gas. Again, methane is a greenhouse gas, so it creates global warming. And wherever you are building dam, the area is going to get submerged. Whosoever lives near those areas, so satisfactory rehabilitation by the government is also a problem. So this is all about hydro power plants. Moving on to the last topic, that is biomass. Okay, now what is biomass? The waste material of living things. Suppose cattle, so they give dung. Okay, now since earlier times we have been using cow dung cakes, right? In villages also you can see the wall of their huts or their kacha houses are full with the cattle dung cakes. Dead parts of plants, animals, they all can be utilized for getting energy, and that energy is called bioenergy, and the waste material is called biomass. So, if we see, it is a traditional source of energy. For example, wood, crop residue, bagasse, residue of sugarcane after extracting the juice, very interesting. Cow dung cakes are used for fuel as for domestic as well as industrial uses. Right? This bagasse, if I am telling, it is also used to produce alcohol. Okay, so it is not a waste. After extracting the juice, it can be utilized properly. So biomass can also be utilized to generate electricity. In further topics, we will see an example of biogas plant. So that is utilized to get electricity as well. For now, let us see and learn about a new thing that is called charcoal. Okay, so charcoal and coal are almost similar. The difference is in charcoal we have less amount of volatile materials and less dangerous vapors, right? So it creates less pollution. Now how to convert coal into charcoal? Because if you use coal, it will create a lot of smoke, right? So scientists are coming up with an idea that convert coal into charcoal, so you will get an efficient burning fuel. Clear? So now let us see how charcoal is made. Charcoal is generally prepared by heating wood in limited supply of air. This process is called destructive distillation of wood. Right? This process can take days. And what is the advantage? The volatile compounds, the waste, the byproducts like water, methane, hydrogen, tar, they are just removed from the wood, and what we get is a very efficient coal, right? That is also known as char. Okay, so char burns steadily, it is very hot and produces less smoke and fewer dangerous vapors. It burns without flames, produces less smoke and has higher heat generation efficiency. Clear? So you see, it is very useful when you compare it with simple general coal. So charcoal is a priority. It is used in industrial basis as well as in domestic purpose. Right? The process of making charcoal. This is very interesting. The process of making charcoal is ancient, with archaeological evidence of charcoal production going back about 30,000 years. You see, right? So it is not like charcoal producing is a latest technology. It is very ancient. Okay, so that's it for today. We are stopping up to here. In the next videos we will study about a very important topic, that is biogas plant and then other forms of energy. So till then, stay tuned to this channel, make notes properly. I will give you instructions about the submissions later on. So till then, continue writing. Thank you. Have a nice